Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank. He's Aaron William Freeland, and we're here to do some Candid Frank live discussion and topics. As usual, we love to do sports and news. This is one of the crazy things that Aaron and I like to do. Uh, let's start, Aaron, with the news first. With the sports and the national hockey. But right after you tell me how are things going.
Things are going pretty well, actually. Unfortunately, I won't be around on the Friday, as you know. This is just a heads up to our viewers. I am going to be in Halifax over the St. Patrick's Day long weekend. So you won't be seeing me here, but I will be back on the Monday.
I wrote something in regards to the St. Patrick's Day um, weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I look at St. Patrick's Day as hmm, it seems that it's gone. Yeah, I'm looking for it. It's not there.
Uh-oh.
It's like it was removed. Well,
Is it on your Facebook page, Frank?
yeah, I wanted to repeat it. Um, let me try something here. I almost think that I might have offended somebody, and Facebook removed it. I don't know.
No, the last thing that I have showing up here is a memory of Mike Bradwell at Shoeless Joe's.
Yeah, that I get. That I get. Absolutely. Close that, please. Oh, really? None of my. Well, this is weird. Let me get my phone. Let me see. Sometimes my phone and my here, I saved it. I saved it anyway, and basically talking about St. Patrick's Day. Here's what I had to say, and then you can retort. Ethnic shaming is permitted and even promoted against some groups. Something I firmly believe. There's license to make fun of people. It's politically correct. It's okay. With others, definitely not. And then there's everything in between. Stereotyping is a damaging box people are placed in. We should recognize it because the majority of those in the box don't complain for making it worse. St. Patrick's Day is coming by some the biggest perpetrator of the Irish stereotype because we make fun of Irish people drinking a lot based on that day. It's sort of there is a stereotype and it does promote it. My version of being Irish and Irish Catholics in particular, which I'm not, is the discrimination they have overcome in Britain by being by the English, by living there, in Ireland and what it's been through, shipped to Australia as criminals and escaped to the USA for freedom of religion and populated it more than any other group. Many were also sent to Quebec as orphans and assimilated. And in fact, one of them is whose heritage is Mulroney, who his background is that exactly. So my version of St. Patrick's Day is survival. And the reason I say that, Aaron, is that there was a skit on Saturday Night Live which basically connected being Irish as well as being drunk, being a drunk, connecting the two. And I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff. It's the same thing. Like for me, being Italian, uh, how many people do I know in the mob? Was what I was always asked, and it hurts, but you have to pretend it doesn't because if you don't pretend it doesn't, then you're giving people a weapon. Um, can you see? Can you see anything there? Your comment on what I'm saying, as far as our perpetuation of stereotypes, and they're not just the top, you know, I'm not. I don't want to start giving air to the stereotypes, but rather than talk about them, talk about how they work is what I'm trying to do here.
Understood. I mean, for me, St. Patrick's Day has always been mired in that sort of mocking this particular group to a certain extent, but at the same time, one of the taglines that one of the greatest Irish brewing companies likes to use is "Everybody's Irish for a day." You know,
Yeah.
and in this particular instance, all of those vices and all of those stereotypes and that sort of thing are seen as good things as opposed to negatives. Um, I mean, personally, I know it's the celebration of St. Patrick. I am aware of this link to, Christianity that the festival is supposed to have
And who
based on
that
the day that he
saint
died.
represents, who and what
Yes,
that saint represents, right?
exactly. I mean, there is that connection there, at least for some of us, but that also blends with all of ye old stereotypes that are around, as an excuse
Yeah.
to get together with friends and have fun. I
Yeah,
don't necessarily,
it's just one.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Aaron, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My favorite soccer team is the Irish team. Back when they played Italy against the country that I'm supposed to support, and I got into a little bit of trouble because when Italy played Ireland, people wondered why an Italian was rooting for Ireland. Well, it was simply because the coach said the boys want to party and have sex before the game. It's okay with me.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's sort of it is a Christian holiday that the Feast of St. Patrick is designed to commemorate the arrival of Christianity in Ireland, and it's celebrated by the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Lutheran Church. If so many churches got it right, it can't possibly be wrong, right?
There you go. There you go. So anyway, so for those of you that are Irish and feel a little disdain towards the fact that the association of getting a little too tipsy, or um, I apologize to you on behalf of your feelings. And remember, we live in a world where feelings matter. But on behalf of the people who are doing it just to celebrate the holiday, because that's what it becomes. It's become a holiday and a celebration. And and like you said, I think for the most part it's not celebrated in a negative manner. It's an excuse to party. It's let's be clear, it's no different than Christmas in that regard, where people celebrate, and the celebration is more important than the reason why you're celebrating.
I mean, it sort of goes along with Robbie
That-
Burns Day, where people like to put on kilts and drink scotch and mumble unintelligible things over meat. It's the way things go.
Right.
It's one
So
of those.
it's an excuse to party. So, and that's something that transcends any group of people, because we know, and the more that we hang out with other people of different cultures, and all of us have had that opportunity, we're blessed with that opportunity. We begin to realize that we all like to celebrate. Celebration is a really it's foundational in making people happy. So, for those of you that are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, enjoy it however you wish to enjoy it, but please do it safely and intelligently, as intelligent as you can, looking through the bottom of a glass of whatever you're drinking.
Yeah, I do have a tip for those of you who are going out to celebrate St. Patrick's Day as well. Do yourself a favor, stay away from the green beer. I know it's fun, but overconsumption of food coloring in your beer leads itself to some really nasty consequences the next day.
Thank
So,
you for that piece of advice. Thank you for that
yes,
piece of advice.
stay
And
safe
and
out there.
and make sure there's a designated driver. If not a designated driver, at least some form of driving that doesn't include you if you've been drinking. So please don't do that. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where you don't regret it till it's too late. So don't put yourself in the position that you'll regret it. Anyway, okay, let's start talking about hockey. Speaking of regrets, let's talk about the Hab fans and Lekkonen scoring twice as Colorado put it to Montreal.
Well, it was a touchdown and 2 points afterwards. It was an 8-4 beating. Now it was his first trip back to Montreal since being traded to the Avalanche last March, and Arturi Leikkonen got 2 goals, his 99th and 100th regular season goals as Colorado took the game 8-4. He buried a shot partway through the first period. This was shortly after a video tribute to him was played on the jumbotron. I think he used that as motivation. Um, he was also credited with the first goal of the game after he redirected a wrist shot from the point. So 100 regular season goals. That's a big accolade to have. 2 goals net front coming back to Montreal for the first time. It all plays into that. So it was really nice. Not so good on the other side for Montreal, just because they're currently mired in a rather long winless streak, and it hasn't been fun for anybody. The good news is Montreal managed to find themselves on the other side of that the very next night. They managed to snap a 6-game losing streak by beating the Penguins 6-4. Anthony Richard, no relation, scored the winning goal in the third period. He scored at 3:05 in the third. Took a stretch pass from Justin Barron and beat Casey DeSmith on the glove side. God, it sounds like I'm talking about their AHL team. At this point, I think things aren't getting any better for the Canadians. I think there's another player that's gone down with season-ending surgery. So it's one of those things where when it rains, it pours, and this is just not the Habs' year.
They had 10 of the regulars up in the press box.
Just unbelievable. It just one of those things where you just keep looking at it and you just can't imagine how it keeps going wrong, so consistently wrong for them.
Yep, they're on a laser beam to Bedard. They keep going. The Oilers in the Sens. Draisaitl scores 2 goals, Aaron, and Buddy has his 100th point, and playing behind on the same team with McDavid. How great this guy would be and how appreciated he would be if he wasn't on the Edmonton Oilers scoring the kind of points he does for them and not instead for someone else.
Well, it was good to see a second 100-point player. The great news is they both play on the same team. The bad news is that team is the Oilers. So the way these sorts of things go, McDavid hit the 100-point milestone back on February 17th. We're looking at the potential actually for McDavid this season with, I think, 14 or 15 games left. He could potentially hit 70 goals. The way that he's scoring, it's not entirely out of reach. But it was unfortunately not a good night to be a Senators fan. The Oilers absolutely dominated start to finish, so wasn't really a surprise to see the final score. Yeah.
Well, the Jets, Kotkaniemi, the former Montreal Canadian, and the Carolina team beat the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, it's one of those things where one of their former players came back to bite them. Anderson made 21 saves. Jacob Slavin and Brady Shea also scored for the Hurricanes. Kotkaniemi actually had 3 points on the night. He had 2 goals and an assist. Now, the unfortunate thing is this comes on the same eve as the Hurricanes announced that Andrei Svechnikov is having surgery for a torn ligament and will be out for the rest of the season. There is no word as to whether or not he'll actually be available for the playoffs. There is the possibility, but I think at this point it's unlikely. DeMello, Ehlers, and Niederreiter scored for the Jets. And Dave Riddick made 20 saves, but unfortunately their short 2-game win streak is now over.
The Flames Coyotes. Flames 4-3 in OT.
Yeah, the Coyotes have actually managed to extend their point streak to 6 games now. They have been one of the hottest teams in the NHL since the All-Star break, which is counterintuitive because they're one of those teams that's going for Connor Bedard. All these teams that could potentially have the easy route are making things harder on themselves now. So it is what it is. Connor Ingram got 42 saves, for Arizona, while Jacob Markstrom had 21 saves for Calgary.
Let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks and the Dallas Stars.
So Vancouver beat Dallas 5-2. They've now managed to extend their winning streak to 5 games. JT Miller said that overall he was happy with the way that things had been going and blamed a lot of the early season woes the Canucks had on distractions. I think we all know who he was pointing the finger at when it came to that sort of thing. But he turned 30. They won the game. He had reason to be happy and let off a little bit of steam here. Again, they're almost playing themselves out of the Connor Bedard sweepstakes as well. Now that they're on a 5 game win streak, I don't know why teams insist on making it harder on themselves.
Let's go to the Maple Leafs. The big news there is, and this concerns me because has it been 3 years? Is this the third season that Austin Matthews has had wrist issues?
I believe it's the third year. Yes. Now, he did
We talk
say,
about the
and
Leafs and how great an organization they are, and I keep saying it, and I wonder why he's not healthy after in the third year.
well, Keith did mention that he has seen Austin playing looser and skating better lately. I'm not sure what is up with this wrist injury. I'm not sure if it's one of those things that may end up eventually requiring surgery, but for the time being, he seems able to at least play through it. While his offensive production hasn't been as great as it has been in years past, let's
Yeah, but
be
you don't
fair.
need talent to be defensive. Talent, defense is effort.
And it
What
seems
Austin
obvious that
has is
Austin's putting the
talent
work
that's not
in.
being used. What's going on here is Austin Matthews does not have. He's not using his talent. He's using the hard work, which we all appreciate and respect. Let me make that clear. But I am hindsight being 2020, as you know. I mean, it's easy to say, and I'll say it. Why the heck didn't he get the operation so he wouldn't be sitting here 3 years later saying, I might have a bit of an issue with my wrist. I mean, he's up for contract talks. Next year's his last year as a Maple Leaf. They've got to make some decisions about him. And they're going to base their decisions on an unhealthy wrist on a guy whose wrist is probably his moneymaker. I mean, it's his moneymaker, and he doesn't have. He's not healthy. His hands aren't healthy. I'm flummoxed by this. Did someone not um, understand how hurt he was? I don't get it. I'm confused.
I think the problem here also is that you can only really judge based on what the player himself says. If
Yeah.
he says
Okay.
he's fine, he's fine. I
Okay.
mean,
I'll
you
leave it.
can
I'll leave it there. You go ahead and finish. I'll leave it there. I'm
you
just.
can yeah. It's curious that it hasn't been fixed. I'm curious that it's lingered for so long. But if the player says he's fine, he's fine. I'm not going to come up to my $11 million player and say you're a liar.
No.
That's
No.
just
No.
not
No.
the
No.
way
No.
I
No.
work, right? So
But I know you don't work that way. But I've said my piece. Just at the end of the day, those two things, I can't align them. I can't align the fact that he has been injured, and it turns out that injury is lasting, and the predictability of this situation that Austin Matthews finds himself in today wasn't predictable enough to make that tough decision of getting an operation. Again, hindsight is 2020. I'm not suggesting that I would have made a better decision. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is there was a decision that wasn't made in hindsight that maybe should have been made, and that's something to think about. And as I said, his contract year is, he's going to be playing for a contract next year with whom we don't know. Tuck scores 2 goals. The Sabres, should we say the Sabres came out of the gate slowly and then picked up the pace, or did the Leafs come out quick and then just fade?
well, the Leafs have a problem, and that problem is typically playing minutes 21 through 40 of any given game. They played a great first period. They actually started on time for a change, which is something that the fan base has been asking them to do for years. The problem now is they seem to be just disappearing off the surface of the ice for the second period, and that has been a problem. And it will continue to be a problem. And we'll find out in the next 40 minutes or so when they start to play against Colorado tonight whether or not they've actually finally managed to nail that down and sort that out.
It's a
But
good question.
it's a very good question because
Really good
I
question.
don't know how it works. I don't know if they're allergic to that side of the ice. I don't know if that side of the arena has different airflow, so it affects their play. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, and then of course the question of whether 7-Eleven is is a good gamble.
Well, instead of running the traditional 12-6, this is a good way to A, rile up the fan base because everybody thinks they know better than the general manager and the coach. B, it's a chance for them to get a look at some other players and how they perform in pressure situations. It gives them a little bit more flexibility on the back end, which has always been a complaint. So by giving yourself seven defensemen to work with, you can shift things around. It also gives you a chance to get some more of your depth players some more ice time. This is not a bad thing. With the injuries that they have on forward and the issues that some of their players have had, I'm reasonably certain with the level of fitness most of these Maple Leafs players have had, they can go to 9 up front instead of 11 and still be just fine.
Wow, I don't agree with that at all, but that's
Oh,
okay.
I know.
I'll let I'll let you have that one. Um, but as far as I'm concerned, the experiment, is it the experiment? Is it the way the Leafs play as a team? One thing's for sure, they've been very inconsistent, and that's not a good thing for a team that wants to go into the playoffs with some sort of swagger. They don't really have it. They don't have that swagger. Now, they are not playing badly in a row a lot, so there's that.
Well, the other thing to remember here is we know who we're playing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not going to change. At this point in the season, with the way that the standings are, really the only thing we're looking at this point is, are we going to be starting at home or are we going to be starting on the road? And
Good question.
realistically, if you want to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, it doesn't matter where you start.
Or
You're
against
going to be
whom?
playing on the road at some time, and against whom exactly? You're going to be playing on the road at some time. You can't win 4 games in a row at home. So, figure it
Well, you're not
out.
going to win 16 games at home.
No, for sure.
The only team that can do that is the team that finishes first overall or has, I mean, they could have home all the way through depending on who loses. But of course, that's neither here or there. The important issue is the Toronto Maple Leafs right now are in a kind of what you've described, and I agree with you. When you take what you just said, in other words, the team's in limbo emotionally because they really don't know what they're playing for. And Buffalo came in and knew what they were playing for, a playoff spot. So that's one of the things emotionally. The Leafs are like anyone else; they can't put it up 100% every day. Unfortunately, that's a reality. But unfortunately, also they just don't have enough guys that rise. And two of the most important players on the Leafs historically, Austin Matthews up front, Morgan Riley out back, are not playing at their best level. And that's an issue. That's an issue. That with those two guys not playing as well as they can, it gives an opportunity to teams like Buffalo in the situation Buffalo found themselves in to have success. And that's the issue that I as someone who's watching the Leafs, that would be a concern of mine if I was a Leaf fan. That those two guys right now aren't looking like they're playing their best.
Most assuredly. And again, it's difficult. You're 17 points out of first place in your division. There's no way that you're making up that much ground in the 16 games that are left, especially not with the way that that Boston's been playing. Like, they're 7-3-0 in their last 10. You've been 6-4-0 in your last 10. It's not going to happen for them at this point. So manage expectations, load management, making sure that everybody's healthy coming into the playoffs right now is probably the biggest priority for the Leafs.
Absolutely. Let's skip to the CFL and the awarding of the Grey Cup to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, or at least Winnipeg.
Yes. it's a good thing to see. 2024 it'll be headed. Sorry, it's 2025. It'll be heading out west. This will be the 5th time it's going to be played in Winnipeg for the 112th anniversary. So thrilled to see that. I'm already looking ahead to try to see if maybe I can book something, but I don't think it's going to be likely.
Okay, Aaron William Freeland, thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching, everybody. See you next time. You can follow us on YouTube, Candid Frank Stanisci 1030, and also you can follow Meathead on Twitter. You still use that handle, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good man. See you next time.
Take care.